company. Great also to have the company of a terribly serious-looking Benedict Spence, Conservative commentator, who's joining us along with his moustache. And if you aren't watching on our YouTube page, you really are missing out on his Movember tash. It is quite something to behold, and at any point, I think it's going to start burrowing out of a prisoner of war camp.
I was going to say, I'm looking very serious because I had a difficult war. I was shot down over
Very difficult war.
1941.
You should have had it on Monday. You look the part as a veteran.
Yes.
But anyway, either that or it's going to start eating cabbages. Could go either way. Or, as our usual,
where are we going? Here it is. Come on.
You're heading into a new series of Narcos.
There we go.
Yes, or 70s porn. But look at our YouTube page. This is going to boost YouTube watches. Go and have a look at our YouTube page. You decide. Yeah. We did a poll on this once some years ago. I feel we may be back into Tash poll territory here.
Okay.
All right. Should we set that up? I think we should. Anyway,
text in your suggestions.
What does he look like? Keep it clean. Okay. Anyway, I've got other things I want to ask you about. Shall I get to those?
Why not?
Archbishop of Canterbury talked a lot about him yesterday. Justin Welby, he did yesterday afternoon resign. I think many of us were saying, was it weeks, days, or was it hours? Quite a few of our guests, reverends who'd actually signed that petition and organised that petition against him yesterday, saying they thought it would be by the end of the day, and it was. A raft of angry criticism about his role in totally failing to act on allegations of child abuse by a Christian summer camp leader and Casey John Smyth. Also going to talk about the NHS, as we often do, because hospital chiefs are going to face the sack and not getting pay rises if they fail to cut NHS waiting times. This is Health Secretary Wes Streeting announces zero tolerance for failure. Why did no one think of this before? Asking people to do the jobs they're paid to do. Mind-blowing, right? Mind-blowing. It's almost like the NHS might be getting into the programme. Also going to be talking about Donald Trump. And I particularly want to, both of those topics, the NHS and Donald Trump, are things I'd particularly like to hear from you today, because the US President-elect Donald Trump has confirmed that, yes, Elon Musk is going to co-lead a new Department of Government Efficiency. It's alongside Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. Also, we know that a Fox News anchor, Pete Hogsworth, is going to be running the Defence Department, and everyone's decrying that. But actually, he's got quite good credentials for the job. We'll talk about that. Plus, Keir Starmer has been at COP29. He's back today for PMQs, but he has pledged to cut carbon emissions by at least 81% by 2035. That's based on where we were, I think, in the 1980s. He insists Britons can do it without anyone having to change how they live their lives. I'm going to tell you right now, that is a blatant and open and clear lie, because one of the key things about hitting the net zero targets, that the Climate Change Committee, supposedly independent, not remotely independent body that advises the government on how to hit net zero, are very, very, very clear that actually a huge amount of what is needed to be done for us to hit these insane, impoverishing targets is for us to not be able to live the lives we want to lead, to go on foreign holidays, to use our cars, to eat meat, to basically put the heating on. You know, those luxury things that we enjoy doing in the 21st century. So we're going to talk about all of that. Benedict Spence is going to stay joining with us for all of that as well. Also, a little bit later today, just to let you know, give you a heads up, the suspect in the Southport stabbings is going to be in court at roughly 2 o'clock, so during Ian Collins' show. This is Axel Ruda-Cubana, aged 18, of course, from Banks in Lancashire. He's due to appear at Liverpool Crown Court by video link at 2 o'clock today for a plea and trial preparation hearing. He faces 3 charges of murder, also 10 charges of attempted murder, 1 charge of possession of a knife, and those are all related, obviously, to that attack in Southport on the 29th of July. He's also been additionally charged in the last month with production of a biological toxin, i.e. ricin, but also possessing a file entitled Military Studies in the Jihad Against the Tyrants, the Al-Qaeda Training Manual. So he will be facing the plea and trial preparation hearing. We understand the families of some of the victims in that case are going to be attending the court today. So we'll keep you posted on developments there. Benedict Spence on lighter issues than a forthcoming murder trial. Archbishop of Canterbury resigning. Justin Welby has gone. Everyone says now he's done the right thing, apart from, of course, Rory Stewart, who's wrong about everything, who says he's a good man who quite happily didn't do anything to try and bring a violent, sadistic paedophile to justice. So not that that good a man.
No, there's quite a few people who are going down that line online on Twitter saying he's a good man who's done the right thing and X, Y, Z, and you kind of think, well, you know, it taken in the round, actually, holding on to this information, not revealing it, and sort of sitting on it whilst you were Archbishop for all these years does not necessarily sound like a particularly good thing.
Yeah, but migrants.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but migrants.
And
I think that's what you have to say at this point.
And fascism, and you know, inclusion,
nasty Tories,
all that sort of thing.
But he's a good man. He just wasn't that bothered about children being beaten sadistically by a paedophile. That didn't bother him so much.
I mean, he's at a slight disadvantage in that he seems to be the one sort of leading cleric in any religion who actually has to face some form of accountability. Well, if he'd picked another religion, he'd probably have been fine.
Well, he'd been fine. If he was the Pope, he'd be absolutely fine.
He could have just turned around and gone, well, God hasn't told me to resign, so what are you going to do? Sadly,
but
he does have to answer
of course, you know, he's the head of the leading cleric in the Church of England. The King is the head of the Church of England. But it may lose his position in the House of Lords. I would certainly expect him to do so, and he has it because of his position.
Well, if Gavin Williamson gets his way, all of the clerics will lose their position.
Well, I would be in favour of that as well. But actually, there are quite a lot of other bishops and others whose names are in the frame. Reverend Stephen Conway, Reverend Dr. Joe Bailey-Wells, and Reverend Sue Coleman are all people who are in the firing line from victims and others saying, look, they totally failed to take any action, failed to follow up with police. They knew what was going on and had reasonable grounds for suspicion, did nothing. And is it weird that I'm really shocked by the fact that two of those people are women?
No. It's one of those things where ultimately what you're sort of seeing and what you have seen is something that is very similar to what happened in the Roman Catholic Church, which is, of course, the reputation of the institution is on the line.
Yeah.
And given the scale of what happened to the Roman Catholic Church and the amount that had to be paid out, you can understand why a much smaller church, like the Church of England, would be absolutely terrified.
But the reputation's only on the line because of failure to act and cover up. Look, we know that there are paedophiles in every walk of life. There are police officers, there are judges, there are bin men, you know, there are IT consultants. I mean, it could be anybody, you know what I mean? And so, you know, it's covering it up. It's failing to act when you know that is the crime.
Yeah, that is. And
by the institution.
Yeah, but again, it's one of those things where I don't want this to sound like I'm sort of trying to justify it. It is sometimes just human nature when you discover these things to hope that they'll go away. And I think when you talk to people who are experts on child sex offences in this country, the consensus is the problem is much larger than people possibly realise, precisely because actually far too many people do turn a blind eye to it. And as you pointed out, we're talking about just about every institution, every arm of government, private, it doesn't matter where it is, actually you will find it somewhere.
NHS, BBC, care homes, social, everybody.
It's absolutely huge. And
but
where
it's
possible,
right that he's gone.
Oh, of course it's right.
And it may be that other heads topple as well. And for me, this is a message that needs to be sent out. Look, this is what is going to happen if you do not act. And we need to make it clear that, you know, it is unacceptable. And, oh, well, I didn't do anything bad. No, you need to do something good to act to stop bad things happening.
Especially if you are a religious figure, and actually morality is your whole thing.
Especially if you pontificate, for want of a better word,
it's kind of
how moral you are, and you don't do anything to protect children.
Pontificate is rather an unfortunate word in this situation, but yes, if your whole shtick is we are the moral arbiters of this country and we can pass judgment on all sorts of things, you kind of have to be quite squeaky clean. And child sex ventures, abuse, that's rather a large one.
Yeah.
You know, if it was a little bit of fraud,
by that,
if it was a little bit of, you know, took a fiver out of the communion dish, all right, you can turn a blind eye to that times are tough. But when it's child sex offences, that's a big one.
It is extraordinary, isn't it? There we are. Look, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. We had lots of calls on this yesterday. Pretty much everyone, to their man and woman, was saying he has to go, and he has gone. That is a good thing. The message needs to get out there. For any organisation, bearing in mind also he's called on other organisations when things go wrong. Well, you know, you're at the top, you need to take the blame. So, well, there you go, Justin. And when people say, oh, well, he's fallen on his sword. No, he didn't think he should resign. He said explicitly he wasn't going to resign. He's only resigned because there's a petition and there's so much pressure, and clearly there would have been a quiet word from the palace and a quiet word from number 10 saying, mate, you've got to go. He's not even done the honourable thing. No, he doesn't even get credit for going, as far as I'm concerned. He didn't even
publish the letter particularly clearly. He sort of, you know, printed off an A4 piece of paper, put it on a desk and stood as far... Well, he perhaps didn't do this, but this is what Lambeth Palace did, and they sort of published it so that people couldn't read it online.
Well, now he's not there. They can open Lambeth Palace up to all those migrants that they're so worried about. Let's talk about Wes Streeting. Health Secretary Wes Streeting. He's done a few things, said a few things I'm not happy about. I largely am of the view he's the sanest person in this government.
Low bar.
Definitely, no, not a low bar.
Sorry.
Low bar, to be fair. But I like him personally. He's a good bloke. He's willing to talk tough on the NHS and reform. We had that announcement. Was it what, like 20-odd billion quid for the NHS in the budget? Everyone went, oh, hold on a minute. What, more money for the NHS? But no mention of proper reforms. Well, now we're hearing about the reforms. I think it should probably be the other way round, just going out on a limb here. He's announcing today, and interestingly, he's actually speaking in front of a lot of NHS trust bosses, so, you know, into the lion's den, basically saying if you're a hospital chief and you don't cut waiting times, you don't get the job done, you don't do well in performance league tables, you are going to not only not get your pay rise, not get your bonuses and things, you're going to be sacked from your job and not allowed to sort of take a payoff and then go and work for the next hospital trust, because that's what they've been doing in musical chairs they play. I mean, it's extraordinary to see an awful lot of, people from, the NHS Confederation, others going, oh, well, this is terrible, because if we have league tables and things, then this will encourage us to sort of go towards the league tables, and people shouldn't be sacked for, what if their finances are difficult? You think, oh, my God, you're paid six-figure salaries. We expect you to do the job. So, 2 hospitals with the same demographics, with the same budget, some of them are able to have shorter waiting lists by a long way than others. That tells you it's about a failure of management or a lot of the time. If you're not good at your job running the NHS, not only is it economically sane for you to be sacked, it is the moral thing for you to go, because you are costing people's lives. If I do my job badly, I get sacked. If I do my job badly and I libel someone, that costs me and the company a lot of money. Okay, but no one's going to die as a result. If you do a job where if you're rubbish at your job, people die, you should want to go if you're no good.
It's a good thing that nobody relies on me for my job to live or die.
What is your job,
I just sort of bumble along in here, just sort of, sometimes I'm good, sometimes I'm bad. But much like an NHS manager, I stay hung on like a barnacle. You'll never get rid of me. I'm here forever.
We'll
honestly,
see about that.
well, this is the thing, though, isn't it? When it comes to Wes Streeting, the Labour Party, they are able, politically, in a way, to promise NHS reforms in a way that the Tories are not, because there is a lot of opposition coming from NHS figures and a few commentators, but you can imagine it would be 10 times worth if it was a Tory saying, we're going to sack people who don't do their jobs. Everybody would be up in arms, they'd be asking for money, all of these campaigns. And again, we're seeing something similar right now in the US, we'll get onto this, which is the idea of government efficiency and performance. When you say, we're going to sack people who don't do their jobs, the machine grinds it, gets into gear, and people get angry, because it's their livelihood, it's their way of life.
Shouldn't they want to do their jobs well anyway?
But they just want to get paid. That's what actually,
that's the worry, isn't it?
It may surprise a lot of people. Actually, a lot of people are drawn to high-paid jobs because they're high-paid, not because of some sort of moral...
A
lot of doctors do not, in fact, think, what I want to do is save lives. They think this is a well-paid and secure job.
I think that makes more sense in America than I think, actually, for the skill level you need and the training you need, and sort of A-level grades you have to get into medical school, I think you're pretty crazy to go into medicine as your way of making money. There are plenty of ways...
Yes, but actually, in times gone past, it was still a
still a high respect job.
Also, it's one of the few jobs that you can take and flee the country with, actually.
As we now know. Well, I want to hear from you on this. Also, on other subject we'll get to in just a moment, but Health Secretary Wes Streeting, he says NHS chiefs will be sacked if they don't cut hospital waiting times. What is your reaction? I wonder what it's going to be. I'd love to hear from you. Your experience in the NHS in terms of waiting times for operations. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Give us a call. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can message the word talk to 87222. You can also get in touch on X at TalkTV. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text costs £1, standard network rate message. Love to hear your thoughts on that. I also want to hear your thoughts on my next topic, which is Donald Trump appointing, among others, to his new cabinet, Elon Musk to lead a new US Department of Government Efficiency. What's your reaction to that? Again, the same number, 0344 499 1000. I'd love to hear your thoughts, because Benedict Spence, please, 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 can we have Elon Musk, once he's sorted out America, can you sort out now? Now, they have an even bigger problem. We've got like 400 federal agencies. They spend, literally the US government spends trillions and trillions of dollars. There is huge amounts of waste. They've got a big issue in the Senate and the Congress with this pork barrel bills, where basically, well, I'll agree to X if you agree to a load of extra money for this county in my constituency on something completely different. This spending by the American government is absurd. It's a huge, very rich economy. However, it is trillions in debt. It is an economic. I mean, it's doing economically much better than we're doing in most European countries, but it's still kind of built on a house of cards to a certain extent. What do you make of the appointment of Elon Musk to go in, sort it out, given what he did with Twitter? Yeah. Given how he operates with Tesla and with SpaceX.
The Boring Company. I mean, you said that they have over 400 federal agencies. It's even worse than that. They technically don't know how many they have because there are several that, are they part of other organisations? Yeah. Is this one still being operated properly? Has it been outsourced? That is how vast the US federal government, they cannot actually give you an exact number.
That tells you everything.
Elon Musk, whatever you may think of his politics or his character, he is somebody who gets things done. So you can entirely understand therefore why the Democrats are terrified of this man being parachuted into government. And it's interesting, there was a social scientist called Samo Berger who actually advocated for what Elon Musk did at Twitter, which is what you should do with the federal government, which is basically you should turn around and say to people, right, what is your job? What did you get done this week? And let everybody know, look, by this deadline, we're going to be letting X amount of you go. And those of you who maintain will get some of the pay of those people. So you're incentivized to work. And you keep on doing that. Every couple of months you have a review and you say, so what did you achieve in this period of time?
What did you actually... I don't care what your job title is. What did you actually do?
Yeah, and this is what he does. And some people say that it's very terrifying and all this sort of thing, to which the response is yes, and look how well it's doing. I mean, he's able to get rockets up in the air.
Same as the NHS. It's like paying people to do the job they actually pay to. I think there are huge ways of particularly, I mean, I think in the private sector as well. Every private sector I've worked in, there are at least, I've always said, if I was a boss of a company, I would go in and I would say, right, just on this floor, write a list of the 10 people we should definitely never let go because they get stuff done. And give a list on the other side of 10 people who, frankly, if they left, no one would even notice. And I reckon 8 or 9 of those names would be the same on every single side, from every single person. Everyone knows the people who do Big Paul, and everyone knows the people who, that's the person to get things done.
And this is what he's going to... There is an interesting question, though, that needs to be answered, which is that is he going to stay actively involved in the running of things like Twitter or SpaceX? Because then it would be a conflict of interest.
Well, no, but that's the thing. His role is going to be outside federal government technically, so he doesn't need to have approval and on a technicality, and he still gets these massive contracts.
They are going to have that massively sort of nailed to the wall, because otherwise, this is how Democrats operate through lawfare. They will be dragged through the courts on this. The other thing, I don't know if you noticed...
Yeah, so all the courts are run by Conservatives.
Have you noticed the first letters of the department that he's running?
Doge.
It's literally...
Apparently it's a meme. It's a
cryptocurrency.
I mean, that's gone up in value.
It is, exactly. That every time Elon Musk mentions Doge, it massively spikes. And so even there, even though this is a very important role in a government job, the most powerful government on earth, he's still doing practical jokes. That was put out by the president.
Can we also talk about another appointment? This is lots of derision. The new head of the Defence Department, new Defence Secretary, is going to be a Fox News anchor called Peter Hegsworth. Now, it's been much derided, and I pointed out today, like, well, I mean, is it any madder to appoint a Fox News anchor to a job like that than appoint a vice president based on the fact that she's black and a woman? I mean, it seems to me...
Or Donald Trump as president.
But what's interesting, of course, now, again, bearing in mind, our defence secretaries often had no defence background, never been in government, so they've got no more background on that. But he actually went to Princeton and Yale, two of the top universities in the world. He then worked on Wall Street. He had 20 years of military service, including in Iran and Afghanistan. He's a decorated war hero.
In Iran, sorry.
Iraq, sorry. Afghanistan and Iraq. And also, after he left military, he set up an organisation helping veterans. Seems to me that saying he's a Fox News anchor rather undermines actually an entire career of public service. A very, very, very sharp brain. I'm thinking this guy might be pretty good.
But you're going to see that. You're going to see that with almost every appointment to the Trump administration, is that Democrats and mouthpieces that are adjacent to that party are going to go in two-footed on them because they've lost, and they've lost badly, and all they can do now is complain. He controls all 4 branches of the government, and he's won a majority. This is, unprecedented territory for many people in the US media ecosystem who lean Democrat. They've never seen anything. Even W. Bush didn't have this.
No, exactly. But also, most likely, now looks the Secretary of State is going to be, as he called him, Little Marco, Marco Rubio, very pro-Israel. Very, I mean, and the new US ambassador to Israel as well, and the new US ambassador to the UN as well. Very, very much no nonsense, we're not even looking at 2-state solution at this point. This is just, it's Israel, Israel, Israel. And you know what? I'm happy with that. I really am.
Yeah.
Look, there's so much more to talk about. I want to hear your thoughts on all of this, not just Donald Trump's appointments, but particularly Elon Musk. Do we want Elon Musk here? Who would you want to be appointed here? I mean, I'd take Elon Musk to actually deal with government efficiency. And frankly, let's be honest, probably get rid of about 50% of our bureaucracy. Would that not improve the country? I mean, if those people are so great, I'm sure they'll be able to get other jobs, won't they? Because they're so good at what they do.